Good morning. It's impressive to see that so many people made it here this morning. When my alarm went off at 5:30, I tried not to think that it was actually 4:30, but I did get up. Welcome. I need these. Welcome, friends, to our spiritual home, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tarpon Springs. My name is Elaine Brooks, and I am serving as worship associate today. I use she, her pronouns, and am a white woman with short brown hair and brown eyes. Today I'm wearing a bright blue top, well, I guess it's royal blue, and Reverend Kristina and I apparently did coordinate our wardrobe today, and gray pants. I am from the land of the Mohegan tribe in Connecticut. We want to acknowledge that here at the church, we are on the lands of the Tocobaga and Seminole peoples. We are a church of many welcomes, and we offer a warm welcome to all of you. This is a liberal community for all ages, promoting spiritual growth, social justice, and the arts. To learn more about events, our church calendar is on our website, uutarpon.org, or we'd be happy to talk with you during coffee hour. For those present with us in the building, we have connection cards. We have connection cards which are in the pews if you would like to fill one out, and we'll be able to keep in touch with you. You can also send us an email at membership@uutarpon.org to get connected. There are also small cards to write any joys or concerns that you would like to share with us if you prefer writing, and I will share them at the end of the service. Today's service is with our minister, Reverend Kristina Spaude, and the sermon will include a dialogue between Reverend Kristina and Mark Hopkins. Bonnie Whitehurst and our choir will provide the music. Our opening hymn is When Our Hearts Are in a Holy Place, number 1008 in the Teal hymnal. And either stand or sit for the hymn, whichever you are most comfortable doing.
I am the Reverend Kristina Spaude. I use she, her pronouns and am a white woman. I am tall with shoulder-length curly brown hair, parted on one side, and blue eyes. Our opening words this morning come from my friend Michelle LaGrave. This is, "We join together as one congregation." We gather together. We arrive as individuals, as couples, as families, as neighbors, as friends. We got here by walking, by biking, by riding, by driving, by connecting. We bring with us our joys and our sorrows, our laughter and our tears, our worries and our fears, our questions and our beliefs, our ethics and our values. Some of us arrived early this morning, or joined us 10 minutes ago, or encountered obstacles on their way. I know there were many. Or will arrive just in time for the sermon, or will sign on later this week or even next month. We are sitting in pews and chairs, leaning on walkers or canes, stretching in the aisle, settling in wheelchairs, and relaxing in recliners. We, members, friends, and visitors alike, come from many paths and join together as one congregation to lift up our highest ideals. We have gathered. Now let us worship. Alex.
We light our chalice with these words from Deborah Falk. A chalice lit in our midst is a symbol of our liberal faith, a faith built on the foundation of freedom, reason, and tolerance, a faith sustained by acts of kindness and justice, a faith that visions a world flourishing with equality for all her people, a faith that demands the living out of goodness, a faith that requires thoughtfulness, a faith of wholeness. This tiny flame is the symbol of the spark of all this within each of us. And we will now read the covenant, which will be displayed on the screen, and we invite you to read along with us. We strive to look for and encourage the best in each other as we move toward justice, peace, and love for both ourselves and the world. And when we fall short, we will seek understanding, reconciliation, and a return to covenant. And we will now sing Spirit of Life.
Our story this morning is called The Treehouse Rules, part of the Love Connects Us curriculum of our Tapestry of Faith. The treehouse was built on the congregation's grounds over 3 Saturdays in September, using donated lumber and the donated labor of the families of the church and other adults who wanted to help with the project. Even the kids got involved, especially those 10 and up, by pitching in and helping in any way they could during the construction. And it was a fantastic place to be once it was completed, with a window that faced the nearby playground, a rope ladder to climb up, and a slide to exit. While everyone was happy that the treehouse was there after all the planning and construction, it soon became a problem. When too many kids wanted to enjoy it at once, their different ideas about how to use it came into conflict with each other. The younger kids got a thrill out of running races through it, hurriedly climbing up the rope ladder, rushing through the treehouse to race down the slide over and over again, one after another. But the older kids wanted to hang out in the treehouse after the worship service ended, playing games like jacks and cards, probably more like being on their phones. One day, a second grader racing by interrupted the fifth grader's game of cards for the third time. And that was it. A fight broke out with name-calling, pushing, and some tears. Some adults demanded that the treehouse be off limits until the children learned to cooperate with each other. Other adults protested that their children had special rights to use the treehouse because they had helped build it. The Religious Education Committee had meetings about a policy for use for the treehouse. They were getting ready to report to the Board of Trustees with their findings. Meanwhile, the minister considered bringing in a consultant from the region to address the conflict, which had now spread through the entire congregation. But while the adults were arguing, holding meetings, and creating policies, something happened. The children, who had been temporarily banned from the treehouse, started talking to each other and looking for ways that they could all use the playhouse together. A few of them remembered the covenants they had created in their RE programs the year before. They suggested a covenant could be created for how the kids could use the treehouse. And so they sat down and talked about why they liked the treehouse and what made it fun. They discovered ways they could all enjoy the treehouse in the ways they wanted to. They came up with a covenant which laid out how they would be in the treehouse and how they would respect each other so that they were all using the space they wanted to. Just as the adults were starting a congregational meeting to adopt a policy for use of the treehouse, some church leaders looked out the window. They saw the children cooperating with each other and using the treehouse without conflict. A teenager was dispatched to the treehouse to discover what sorcery this was, what rules the participants had come up with, and when she reported back to the adults that they had created a covenant with each other, the adults were humbled. Some sheepishly glanced at their church covenant framed on the wall, hanging there and mostly forgotten. The congregational meeting was adjourned. The adults went on their way, reminded of the power of covenants, working together to find a solution, and the commitment of people in right relationship with one another, all because of the treehouse rules. We will sing our children to their programming with hymn number 413 in the gray hymnal. I will light this chalice to send them forward with the love and light of this community to hold them in their time together.
Everywhere you may
purpose of our church is to encourage all who gather here to grow more generous in spirit and in action. We now take an offering that allows us to exercise that all-important generosity of spirit, an offering that will support this self-supporting church and its many ministries. The gifts of the congregation will be most gratefully received.
Rows and flows of angel hair and ice cream castles in the air, and feather canyons everywhere. I've looked at clouds that way, but now they only block the sun. They rain and snow on everyone. So many things I would have done, but clouds got in my way. I've looked at clouds from both sides now, from up and down, and still somehow it's cloud illusions I recall. I really don't know clouds at all. Moons and Junes and Ferris wheels, the dizzy dancing way you feel when every fairy tale comes real. I've looked at love that way, but now it's just another show. You leave them laughing when you go, and if you care, don't let them know. Don't give yourself away. I've looked at love from both sides now, from give and take, and still somehow it's love's illusions I recall. I really don't know love at all. Tears and fears and feeling proud to say I love you right out loud. Dreams and schemes and circus crowds, I've looked at life that way. But now old friends are acting strange. They shake their heads, they say I've changed. Well, something's lost, but something's gained in living every day. I've looked at life from both sides now, from win and lose, and still somehow it's life's illusions I recall. I really don't know life at
Thank you so much, Anne. So before our moment of silence, I often invite some reflection. And this week, I wanted to remember that this is the 4-year anniversary of the shutdown of so much due to the coronavirus pandemic. Let's take a moment to think about what these 4 years have been like for ourselves, our loved ones, our neighbors, and the whole world. We will take a moment of silence to let you settle into yourselves and your seats. Our reading today comes from the Reverend Kimberly Debus, who writes a blog called Hold My Chalice, that if you are not subscribed to, I highly recommend it. Every week I think, this was written for us, and it was never actually written for us, but still. A recent post is the purpose of a system. She writes, sometime last week, a colleague posted this snippet from Wikipedia. The purpose of a system is what it does, is a systems thinking heuristic coined by Stafford Beer, who observed that there is no point in claiming that the purpose of a system is to do what it constantly fails to do. The term is widely used by systems theorists and is generally invoked to counter the notion that the purpose of a system can be read from the intentions of those who design, operate, or promote it. When a system's side effects or unintended consequences reveal that its behavior is poorly understood, then the purpose of a system is what it does perspective can balance political understandings of system behavior with a more straightforwardly descriptive view. She continues, I keep thinking about our congregations and all the wisdom we share about how hard it is to change congregational systems and how long it takes to make changes happen in congregations. Is it possible that this is polity's purpose? That this is, in fact, how congregations are supposed to work? Is it possible that our intentions, visions, missions, and stated desires for change and growth, we stay stuck because that's the way the system is designed? I think about how congregations long for more young people, more diversity, more families, but somehow don't change the systems that keep the congregation small, white, and older. The desire to grow is real and it's embedded in the vision, but it still doesn't happen. Change that would manifest that vision doesn't happen. And I'm beginning to think that's as designed. We make it hard to change because we are relying on processes that prevent change. And by processes, I mean the things like consensus, where one person can stop an action or reacting to individual complaints. I mean the processes between the lines of the bylaws, those cultural ways that we do things here that stymie progress, like needing to study everything or form task forces to study everything, or the invisible roadblocks of, we tried that once. And because these things are embedded in the system, they are in fact part of the system, often hidden from plain sight because the mission and vision are front and center. And nothing in the governing document says, we won't do anything unless we get a buy-in from everyone. Is it any wonder so many religious professionals try new initiatives under the umbrella of experimentation? We experiment all the time with changes to the orders of service, to communications, to organizing, to approaches to spiritual development and education. Everything is an experiment so that things can happen and not get stuck in a system that is working as intended to prevent change. And what I know is this: most of us don't actually like it this way. We want to change, to grow, to live our vision, pursue our mission. We want to react and improve with agility and savvy. We want to be relevant and stay relevant. We want to live our values both inside and outside our building. Yet our systems are too often failing to help us do that. The systems are working as designed. So what will it take to change the system? Hint, it's not about a new governance structure. What will it take to remove the roadblocks that keep our congregations from moving forward? Hint, it has to do with covenant. What will it take for our congregations to not just profess our values, but to live our values? Hint, it's going to require putting love at the center. And I wish you could be with us every week. Thank you so much. So Mark and I are leading the service today, and we have been through at least a half a dozen full iterations of the service and landed in a place that we think is pretty great, and we're happy to share with you.
Hi.
Hi.
So the place I've landed in, if we could superimpose last week's graphic on top of that one, we would have roots going into my brain, and then the roots in my brain would, is this good? Okay. Would lead to this conversation, which I'm glad we're having. So last week.
Is that okay?
Yeah. Is it? No? Yeah.
Close.
Okay. Yeah. Last week, Samara Powers, thank you, took us into a journey into covenant, This week, I believe we will deepen it. We'll get it
Yeah,
right.
gotta eat it.
With enough help, I'll get it right. So we're going to explore congregational health and mindset with covenant as our end point. But I'm going to start with something that I found interesting. I'm going to start with what's called the hive switch hypothesis. Is anyone familiar with the hive switch hypothesis? Okay. It's a concept by social psychologist Jonathan Haidt in his book, The Religious Mind, Why Good People Are Divided by Politics and Religion. And he suggests that we're on an evolutionary platform, an evolutionary journey, where we, us, our species, has developed and continues to develop the ability to put group interests over self-interest at times. At times when we're able to switch from self-interest to collective interest. Love the story you did, great. He says that we humans are 90% chimpanzees and 10% bees. Bees. Bzz.
Like the bee's knees.
90% chimpanzees, kind of do our own thing, individual, take care of number one. 10% bees, in that we are collective, able to take care of one another. And he says this switch occurs, and we can all look at incidents. It occurs sometimes in sports, where the individual becomes part of the team. Sometimes it occurs in natural disasters, or even around sinkholes, where people put the group interest above. People turn strangers into friends, like the story you told earlier. So here's the first point of discussion. Is a covenant perhaps a hive switch? Is it a way for us to switch our mindset?
I feel like the answer to that is yes and no. So, yes, in the sense that it encourages us to remember to function as part of a larger system, as part of a group, in this case, a congregation of people, and invites us to embody that. But it's also an invitation. This is where it's the yes and. I feel like it's also an invitation for us to bring our whole selves into that relationship. So there is that continuity of holding on to your individual self, but also bringing that into a shared space where you're collaborating with others to achieve an outcome, which in this particular case is building a religious community, building a beloved community, perhaps.
This book, which Reverend Kristina shared with me, I recommend it highly. I guess we have it in our library.
We do now.
We will. Unlocking the Power of Covenant, report of the UUA Commission on Appraisal.
It is also available on Kindle for people who are interested.
One of the notions in here is covenant is what holds us. Covenant is what holds us together, and keep holding the mic. They say Unitarian Universalism is not a creedal faith, it's a covenantal faith. We promise each other to behave in certain ways and create common aspirations. First and foremost, it is our promises that hold us together. How do you see our promises holding us together?
I think that when we practice our covenants well, we hold our promises at the forefront of what we're doing. So we talk a lot about mission. That comes up all the time in our board meetings and in other conversations as we're our finance strategy group that's been working on trying to get the congregation to be in right relationship, or at least better relationship with its financial situation. And we talk about our mission a lot. We talk about our mission in terms of social justice as we're planning events. Is this an appropriate thing for us to be doing in terms of, does it align with our mission? The covenant also needs to be present, and it needs to be present all of the time. And this is something that I talked about when we first started the small group ministry, the covenant groups, was that we need to have our covenants right front and center, because we need to be able to start practicing them in times when things are not challenging, so that when times are challenging, we've already gotten acclimated to the fact of reminding ourselves that our covenant is important to us. It is literally the cornerstone of our faith. And so the question of if we live our promises and live into them, I think we live into our promises best when we're holding our covenant and we're holding our mission both together as a congregation in front of us and living into both of those things. And one thing that congregations and individuals sometimes will, the impulse is to live into the covenant for the easy times. Who here has been married, been a child, been a parent, been a sibling, known people for a long time? Have you ever had an instance where things were just rainbows and sunshine all of the time? Right? That's not how relationships work. Relationships are supposed to be challenging. We're supposed to support and challenge each other, to be in conversation and to commit to journeying together. And it's really easy to rely on covenants when things are easy, and it is harder to practice covenants when things are more challenging and when they're the most necessary.
So I guess another perspective of the same question, if covenant is what holds us together first and foremost, then we only have as much togetherness, cohesion, as we allow and bring into covenant.
Absolutely.
How do you know that, see it? What are indicators of our covenantness?
So, marks of healthy covenantedness would be challenging each other when people are acting out, of not holding on to the one complaint that's preventing a process from moving forward, from being able to have hard conversations without people's emotions boiling over. And all of those things, because the people who are in the relationship remember that we are in covenant. We're trying to be in relationship. We're not out to get each other. That's not the purpose of church. Nobody comes to church to get terrorized by other people, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure that's not what we're doing here. But we are here to try to build a community and to be in relationship together. And when we can remember that, that is a demonstration of healthy covenantedness. Is that the word? What are we?
That's the word.
That's the word, okay.
You said in the announcement for this that it's hard, and it's hard work. One of the things the Unlocking the Power of Covenant book mentions is the question of enthusiasm. A covenant of promise can only exist if kept alive with attention. While congregations and individuals know this is true, many still have little enthusiasm for the idea or practice of covenant. So, in essence, that's a mindset, right? You must bring a mindset of paying attention. When I read that, I thought of myself. I entered this church with a mindset, I will find community. I have, through my life, envied people who had church communities, because they could move from town to town, and there it was, according to my understanding, magically appearing. I think that was the wrong, or at least not well-founded mindset. I think it's more of creating community than finding community. So I have worked on my own question of enthusiasm, because when I don't find it, it's like, what's wrong with these people? I may have to reflect a little bit about what's me. Can you comment on that? Can you fix me?
You don't need fixed. I keep remembering there's a minister who said a while back, before he left the ministry, hit his 5-year burnout phase, But he had said that like there's no such thing as having inclusion. You have to practice inclusion with every person that comes and every person that goes, right? It's a practice, it's something that you work on, it's something that you do, it's not something that you achieve. And I'm remembering too, the welcoming congregation renewal process that the congregation underwent this last year with doing the services around being LGBTQ plus celebrating and affirming, and the cellist lightings and the events and the movies and books and all of the things that the congregation participated in this past year. That's an annual renewal process that congregations are invited to participate in, because you don't like achieve a status, right? It's something that you have to continue practicing all the time. And it doesn't go away once you've reached a certain level. You still have to be committed to it. And I think it's the same thing, you know, thinking about as a professional, right? You have to do so many hours of continuing education, and because you have to keep learning to do the things. And I don't think that church is any different. And it can be hard for us to think about that, because I think sometimes, and I've talked about this before, we start conflating churches because they kind of feel familiar, and we start to think of them as our family. And there's a family element to how relationships can feel in a congregation, but they're not actually our family, right? People are growing. Everyone here is growing and changing every single day, and it has been such a delight for me as the minister of this congregation, even in 3.5 years, to watch how some of y'all have grown. It's just been wonderful. But we have to remind ourselves that that's the purpose of being together, is the constant sense of being together and creating something and being connected by our covenant.
Yeah, the book, Unlocking the Power of Covenant, calls it rejuvenation. That's a constant, as you said, process of rejuvenation. And again, it's all of our work. It's the kind of thing that it strikes me no one person can do, but yet every one person must contribute to.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a puzzler.
And unfortunately there we sometimes get into it's no one person's job, and yet it's everyone's job. And so sometimes, I don't know if any of you have ever noticed what has happened around coffee hour at times, but in the past, when somebody hasn't set up coffee hour, we don't have coffee hour, right? Because it's both no one's responsibility and everyone's responsibility. If you want coffee hour, you have to be prepared to help make it happen. So yeah, absolutely.
This is a point
Good job this morning, you guys.
I think you've touched on this, but I want to go a little further. Engagement has to be intentional and energetic. Engagement must be part of the covenant experience. We engage with the words of the covenant, and we engage with each other in the promises we make. This is an intentional and energetic activity that requires focus and attention. Can you suggest ways that we can make this a habit, make it a way of life among ourselves, that we give it focus and attention?
So the easiest, most practical ways to invite reminders is through its practice. So we added it to the order of service on Sunday morning, so everybody has an opportunity to be refreshed with our covenant every single week. Our covenant groups have a covenant that they keep. Our board has a covenant that they keep. I'm sure other groups have covenants amongst themselves as well, and if they don't, they should at least be reading the congregation's covenant and reminding ourselves of what those covenants are every time we meet, until we start getting a practice of where are we, and then thinking through as things are happening. Like, are we in covenant? Are we still in covenant? Wait, I think there's been a breach in covenant. We need to stop and address this and come back into covenant. And it cannot be the minister's responsibility to point out when covenant has been broken.
I like that, because it reminds me when I've worked with groups in the past and they've come up with ground rules, which I guess is a form of covenant. We said you just call it to attention. You may not know why, where, how it arose. You may say the room's too hot. It doesn't mean you know why. It's just we need to attend to it.
Yeah.
You may say we seem to have missed some voices in the room. You may not know how, but we need to attend to it.
I remember being in seminary sometimes, and especially in my later years in seminary, when we had gotten more comfortable with each other and learning how to actually live into the practice of formation, sometimes students would just be like, I think we need to stop. Something happened. There's been a shift, and we need to stop and talk about, because there's something that's not right. And have a dialogue about that right now in the middle of class. It's hard because our white supremacy culture encourages us to like be punctual and like follow a timeline, and we've got a lesson that we're supposed to get through and all of those things, but it's really important if we're focused on being in right relationship and being in covenantedness together, that we actually stop and tend to the relationships and changes and the needs of the people who are present before actually being able to move on. Because when one or more people is stuck in a place because the covenant has been broken, you can't do anything meaningful without stopping and addressing that situation.
That's critical. I almost want to just pause and let you repeat that.
Don't ask me to repeat it because I don't know what I said.
So somewhere near you, hopefully there's a slip of paper that has the covenant written on it.
Probably in hymnals.
Barbara Kostriva helped earlier putting them in the teal hymnals. And maybe it fell out while you were singing or something. Remembering that a covenant is a living experience. And for some in our faith movement, it's an intersection, a reflection, it's an understanding of the sacred as being part of our interaction. So the covenant is a creative encounter. So my ask of you right now is to take a look at it, read it thoughtfully, read it with intention and attention. Mentally, or even with a pen or pencil, underline words and phrases that might provide you a spark for creative encounter. What is it on those words that you say with us that matters to you? Give them a moment. Encouraging the best in each other. Anyone else strike some words that means a spark for you? Yeah.
Well, it mentions love for ourselves and as well as others.
Love for ourselves as well as others. Beautiful. Yeah. Strive.
I think that speaks to the process of it, that it's not achieving, we always have to be striving, and seek is the other.
Striving and seek, yeah.
It says when we fall short, is that an individual perception or perception of others? How would you know if you're falling short or not?
The question is, when we fall short, how will one know? Is it an individual falling short or interaction, mutual falling short? You have to discern it.
And before that, striving and seeking were both lifted up together.
Yeah.
I like the action words that they call us before: strive, encourage, move, love, seek. That the covenant is filled with action words.
Okay. Strive, encourage, seek, action words, yes.
I especially like the part after the ellipses, where it really seems to suggest the importance of assuming good intent from the people that were around. Because as you said, like we come to a church, we come to a community, hopefully looking for an offering acceptance. And if we're assuming bad intent, like, or not willing to assume good intent, that really just breaks down
So the part that says, and when we fall short, we'll seek understanding, reconciliation, and a return to covenant assumes positive intent. Is there any way that you would, Reverend Kristina, deconstruct this? Anything that you would help bring to light or spark?
I need a whole sermon for that. But for me, honestly, the first word that catches my attention is we. Who is we? No, I think we is right. I like we, and it's not critique. It's that is who is we? How are we defining we? And assuming that we are all in this together. So, yeah.
I'll tell you, I'm going to move on because we have just
Yeah.
a few moments. Tell you one that struck me, because I looked at this a lot, was the last words, return to covenant. I played with it in my mind, not return to these words, but return to the process, the action verb, Judy, return to covenant. Once I've arrived at this place with my companions and we've looked at some things, now let's return to covenanting. Let's return to forming, rejuvenating. I like that. So I'll shift a little bit because we have a few minutes.
Yeah.
There are authors, Robert Keegan and Lisa Leahy. They have a book called The Way We Talk Can Change the Way We Work, or just anything, interacting. They say the value of a public agreement, they call it public agreement, we call it covenant, is to lead to organizational integrity. The we part. We have integrity. We've agreed. We've put this before us. We've held on to it. And it gives us a chance to go from the organization's courtroom to classroom. Rather than accusing, rather than attacking, rather than making some issue, we say, let's learn, let's pull together, let's draw from this. Can you aid us in going from the organization courtroom to classroom when we need to?
I think in some ways that what I talked about before about being in class together and somebody just being like, wait, we have to stop and have a conversation about something that just happened, is one way to get in the practice of sort of taking a pulse check and seeing if things are going okay. And that's something else that could be done during meetings and conversations and stuff like that, is just saying, like, stopping and sort of doing an individual assessment, like, do things feel all right? Are we hitting all of the points that we're, like, are we on track? And is everybody on the same page and, like, sort of moving in the same direction? I actually think it's interesting, the idea of courtroom to classroom. I kind of wish it was courtroom or classroom to a conversation instead, because you don't, those courtrooms and classrooms are great. They have their purposes, and the purpose is not what we should be creating together. There's more equity among us. There's less hierarchy. There's no, like, I'm right and you're wrong, or you're right and I'm wrong. Like, that's not helpful. That's about trying to make right instead of trying to make relationship. And we are trying to be in relationship together first and foremost, as we're trying to build this community together, right? Like, I can't make a community. Any one of you can't make a community. We have to be trying to do it together.
I'm going to squeeze one more in here.
Okay.
Because when you talk about it, it sounds appealing, and it also sounds like it can be fairly natural if you apply some discipline and will and skills. Have you experienced that? Have you had places and times in your life where you've experienced that kind of community?
Definitely in seminary. It was really helpful to be in a group among ministers in formation, but even as a religious educator, I was a director of religious education for a couple of years, and I will tell you that our religious educators are amazing, and I honestly think that they hold community and hold covenant and do all the things better than my ministerial colleagues, just because what they practice all of the time, and they're just so devoted to it. And being held in that kind of community where you're supported and challenged and everybody's growing together is just, it's incredible, it's transformative, it's beautiful, it's so meaningful. And I wish that everybody could participate in that. And also, I think that that's the purpose of our congregations, is to try to move into a place where we're trying to explore that journey together on a much larger scale, which presents its own challenges, but also presents its delights.
That's the note we want to end on. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, thank you so much. And Bonnie will lead us in our closing hymn, number 131, Love Will Guide Us, in the gray hymnal.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. With your love, love has guided us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
In the gift of faith, Jean Harrison Newyar has written, in the lore of ancient China, there is a story of a philosopher who was asked, "Where is the road called hope?" He replied, "It does not exist, but as people move upon it, it comes into being." I invite you to continue moving forward on this path, this journey of covenant and love together with me.
Ain't no miracle being born, people doing it every day. Ain't no miracle growing up, people just grow that way. So it goes like it goes, like the river flows, and time it rolls right on. And maybe what's good gets a little bit better, and maybe what's bad gets gone. soul is his, and it goes like the river flows, and time it rolls right on. And maybe what's good gets a little bit better, and maybe what's bad gets gone. So it goes like the river flows, and time keeps rolling on. And maybe what's good gets a little bit better, and maybe what's bad gets
We hope that you have found meaning in today's service. Thank you, Reverend Kristina and Mark, for giving us a lot to think about. And thank you, Anne, for gracing us with your voice. We close with these words from Robin F. Gray. The flame is extinguished, but not our hope for the future, our courage in the face of crisis, or the love we share in all the world.